Josie, you are ready to go. She's got her kit, her sloper pattern, her DVDs, and her box of crayons.
Whoa, good for you. Now,
Happy holidays to you, Josie.
I assume you're doing the knit fit. Is it the knit fit that you got, Josie? Because that's a really fun one, and it's not complicated. It's
She said, yeah.
yeah, yeah, you'll enjoy that. And then once you've got your sloper, you can make a t-shirt anytime you like. And the kicker is, it's gonna fit. That's the beauty. One time I took a class from a pattern drafter, and he was fabulous. He was trained in Germany, and he apprenticed there to become a pattern drafter and a tailor. And I don't know, I think it was about the third week of class, and we were drafting, in half scale, so they were just small. And one of the women in the class said, well, when are we going to sew? I didn't want to draw pictures, I want to sew. And he looked up with this shock on his face. And I'll never forget it. He said, why would you want to sew something before you knew if it was ever going to fit? And it's like this light bulb goes off. You're like, yeah, right. But that isn't the way we were taught. In America, we were taught you go to the store. Maybe you start out in 4-H or home ec or your grandmother, whatever. You go to the store, you pick out a pattern, you buy everything it says on the back of the pattern, you check your measurements, and you sew it up. And when you're 16, it probably fits. But the problem is we didn't know what to do once we hit 30 or 40 when things didn't fit as easily.
Womp womp.
Yeah, but he said in Germany you had to work 2 years in pattern drafting and alteration before you could ever touch the sewing machine. So that's probably a really good discipline. Just a little side note. Came to
Informative.
my mind.
Okay, okay. So, you wanted to point out Linda's shirt. Because
Oh,
if you didn't know, you all should know by now, but a friendly reminder, if you finish your easy shirt, post it on our Facebook page by January 10th to be entered into a drawing for prizes. And Linda posted hers.
Linda Smalley posted her beautiful shirt she made for her husband, and he's pretty handsome too. So you need to go take a look at it.
Oh.
Yeah, and he looks quite content as well, and as well he should be. She bought the really large plaid in blue, but it's a brushed cotton, and I just can't. I couldn't tell you how proud I am. It's just beautiful.
She's beaming.
Everything. Yeah, you lined up your plaids, everything. Your center front. It just, I can't help it. I look at all those things. The eye goes right to it if there's anything wrong, and I couldn't find anything wrong. It was so beautiful. So thank you so much for inspiring us all by posting that picture. And I'm sure your husband is very proud. And
And
usually,
very comfortable.
well, here's the mm, teensy teensy wincy little drawback of making your husband such a beautiful shirt. He's gonna want more. They go to work or they go out with their buddies, and I was, oh man, that's a really nice shirt. Yeah, my wife made it. Really? Oh, that is fabulous. Yep. He's gonna come home. When are you gonna make me another shirt? At least that's what happened to me.
All right. So that is our little like housekeeping announcement. Don't forget to post your shirt when you have it finished, and you obviously have lots of time to still get it done. But we know these next couple weeks start going
They just fly by.
very quickly. So
Yeah.
January 10th you have it, and on the 11th we will draw the winner.
We'll keep reminding you.
Yeah. And then we had talked last week. Somebody asked about seeing Janet's sewing room or sewing studio. and we wanted to do that for you today. Janet's going to show you around. Um,
Yeah,
where,
we're open to questions.
yeah, she has planned a few things, just to show you the space in general and a couple of her favorite tools or organizational tips. But if you have questions, feel free to put them in the comments and I will check them as I can
Okay.
because I might be facing the other way.
Sure, sure. Well, first of all, the space that we're in is a converted garage. It's a converted 2-car garage. It's about 525 square feet, if I remember correctly. And during my 20 years of producing a line and selling my line of ready to wear, I never had it this organized. It was pretty much good luck. Try to find what you need when you need it.
Don't lose a kid or a pet.
Yeah. so, so anyway, it took many years to get as organized as I am, and I'm not excellently organized. However, I do have to remind myself when I get a little discouraged, this is a working studio. This isn't like this nice little space in the corner that once in a while I visit. This is something I'm in here every single day, and we are actually working. So cosmetically, we're not always as interested in a little crack in the drywall or
a big crack in the drywall.
or the ceiling.
We won't show you the ceiling.
So, please know that it isn't some fancy schmancy place, and don't ever let the camera hit the carpet. I did a lot of textile dyeing in this room and had some really funny incidents as well. But when the dye hits the floor and other things, they just get stained, and there's no point in replacing it. It's a concrete floor, so I don't care. I just don't look at it. I keep it vacuumed once in a while. Not very often. When I have to.
And even then you don't do it.
Yeah, I know. My husband does. But it gets done.
All the truth is coming out on this tour that we haven't even started yet. So just hang in there. We're going to have a bunch of little
So anyway, if
revelations.
You have questions about something you're seeing or whatever, a source, just sing out, and we'll try. If we don't get to them right away, like Jessica says, she may not always be facing the computer to read the questions, but we'll circle back.
Okay, where do you want to start?
Right where you said. So
Right
let's start with this cutting table.
Okay, so you're good. All right. Spin you around here. Nobody get dizzy. Now you've seen Janet work over in this space a lot, but she'll really kind of tell you what's going on here.
So after many years, it finally occurred to me that I should have all of my measuring equipment right next to my cutting table. So, and I'm a huge fan of pegboard now. I never was before, but you'll see I've got 3 pegboards in the room. But here I have all those wonderful quilting rulers, and I don't quilt. I have made a quilt. I think just one. Oh, and a wall hanging. But I'm not a quilter. However, I find these absolutely fabulous. And if you're not a quilter and you haven't come across these, you want to take a look at them. So many times when you cut a rectangle, maybe it's a cuff or a placket, sometimes it's much easier to do it with a straight ruler and a rotary cutter than it is to actually use the pattern piece. So think about that, but also recognize all of these angles. So if you have to do bias, this is what I use when I want to do bias. It's a no-brainer. You just line up the 45-degree angle on the edge of the fabric and you just start cutting your strips of bias. And we talked about that for Hong Kong finish and things like that, or finishing the inside of the neckline on a hooded garment. So we've done bias on those as well. But Yeah, I use the T-square a lot when I'm drafting, and a 45-inch metal ruler is really important for drafting when you're drafting pants. And I use a metal ruler because metal doesn't warp or chip. Wood does. Vinyl stretches. So when you use a metal one, you can use it for many years and you never have to worry, has it got a little whoopee in it or has it got a chip or whatever. Yeah.
Whoopee, huh? Is that a
Whoopee.
technical term?
Well, no, but
It
they
is
use it in lumber.
Okay.
You know, when you get your 2x4s, they square them up, or do they have a little? But anyways, they call it a whoopee. The cutting table right here is straight out of the industry. So this is the kind of cutting table they would use at a factory many years ago, especially. Now they have a different form of cutting, but and you can buy these in sections. So I don't have the full length. I have like 6 foot wide by 8 foot long, and you would never want it any wider. But the length really helps because you can put 2.5 yards out flat on here. So most garments you cut aren't going to be much more than 2.5 yards. So this just gives you a nice big surface to cut on. I use the Rhino mat, and we've talked about that many a times. And there's 2 types of mats when you go to the Rhino company to purchase a cutting mat. And this one is transparent. And then you can purchase a gridded piece. It's kind of a vinyl piece that goes underneath it. So then I can always line things up. I use this grid.
I'm going to show them here where you could see the difference.
Yeah, you can see the vinyl right here.
So this is the vinyl piece.
And I purposely had the mat cut shorter because of what I do to cut fabrics for orders. I wouldn't have it like this if it wasn't for the fact that I need it when I'm cutting fabrics. And that's just a long story that you probably don't need to hear.
So you could see where the cutting mat comes over the vinyl.
You can see how nice and thick it is. And it's kind of a milky color, but it's transparent enough that you can see the grid through it. They also have them with the grid printed on the top. However, what I found with that was that eventually that grid started to wear away from cutting and use. So this way, with the grid underneath, it never wears away. And you'll notice on this mat, I've got lots of marks. I've taken Sharpies of different colors, and when I need to measure things, and I'm cutting a lot of them, I use those marks on the mat to help me out. Okay, so that's it for this end of the room. If there's no questions, I keep I like to keep all my weights and cutting utensils and marking utensils in this little container right here that sits on the table. And then I can just move it from one end to the other. And I cut out almost everything with weights and a rotary cutter. Now, you want to just show them quickly what the storage is like underneath the table.
Do you want to show them the little ruler that's in there before we go to the other side in case I can't get close enough? Because I know that is one of your favorite little...
No, I got a green one over there. I'd rather show them the green one.
Do you want to show it here? I'm just worried about getting
All right,
close
let me go
enough
get
with
the
it.
green one then.
It is a Rhino mat, Sharon. Hi, Brenda. Okay. She always has 1 or 2 or 3 of these at every station.
That way you can measure your 3/8, your quarter, ½ inch. It goes up to an inch. It's just helpful. I usually have it specifically at the ironing board and at the sewing machine. But I love it.
Oh, and this one I see. It's Islander brand. If you could see that. So we do have those still on the website, Jen? Or?
Yeah, we're almost out, but we're placing another order tomorrow. So we'll have them in, I'm sure. And I have my Optivisor right here. You'll see these around my room always. And we've talked about this many times, but the Optivisor helps you magnify what you're working on. So if you're working on something very fine detail, or you have a limited light source, magnification can help a lot. It works over bifocals and trifocals. If it's anybody's head, it extends. And it comes with 3 different magnifications. So you can find the one that works best for you. So they all come in the same kit, and we do carry those as well.
Hey Brenda, do you have, I see your comment, do you have the Rhino mat or do you have a different mat? She's saying that she puts a piece of sheet metal under her mat so that she can use magnets. Which, genius. But I just was wondering, because this Rhino mat is pretty thick, does it work?
Yeah, I don't know, but I know that other mat that we bought from that other company that has really strong magnets, but it's hard to tell because there's a sandwich together. I don't know how thick or...
Yeah, I'm just wondering how thick the mat is, because that's a really cool idea. This is a regular cutting mat by Alvin. It's huge. All right.
Okay.
Not familiar.
Yeah, no, I don't know that brand.
But that's a great idea.
Yeah.
Thank you for sharing.
That is a very good idea. So what she's doing is she's putting a metal underneath her mat so she can use magnets as opposed to weights. And I will tell you that the little mat that I have, what's the name of that company?
Olfa?
Huh?
Olfa?
No, Cindy's.
So bright?
No,
I don't.
the mat.
Oh, the magnet mat.
Cindy. Anyway, I use that all the time for pattern making because it holds the paper nice and flat and allows me to do my tracing. So I have to do a lot of tracing when I do pattern making.
Yeah, and Brenda says it would probably work. My magnets are strong, and I think that that's another thing that a lot of people don't think of is you don't have to have all your sewing supplies and stuff bought from a sewing store. If you need a heavier magnet, go to Home Depot. Go,
Exactly. Here's a great
DIY style. Thank you, Josie.
Thank you. This is a great weight. It's a washer. You can buy different size washers. Now, here's one I purchased 30 years ago. They put a little plastic cover on it. Big deal. These are the ones I stole out of my husband's garage. And these are nice and heavy, and you can get all different sizes. And you don't need to pay the extra bucks for the little plastic covering that is degrading anyway. So yes, there's lots of options. And like this metal ruler, when I teach pattern drafting, I always send everybody to go get this. And you get it at the hardware store. You don't buy it at the fabric store. So yep, lots of options everywhere you go. Okay, so we're just gonna go this way?
Sure.
All right. So I don't know, I've got this little cabinet here that was, I don't know, scavenged somewhere.
Hold on one second, Janet. I gotta move a cord.
Okay. So I gotta move a guy.
Okay. Tell us again.
All right, so this cabinet my husband probably picked out of the trash someplace. Anyways, came home with it one day, and it's great. I've got like little things in it, like grommets and what else? Belt buckles and snaps, eyelets, and I leave the bottom drawers empty, and I sneak little goodies in there for my grandkids. So when they come to visit me, they go and look and see if the magic drawers have anything in them. So I have fun with those. So these bottom ones are for the kids. So I think that's all about that part of the studio. And dress forms, professional dress form. Here's my very own pant sloper. So when you make a pant sloper, you end up putting it on this tag board and then hanging it. And you can hang it right in your closet, but then forevermore you've got this sloper to start any pant that you're going to make. And it always really stays nice and flat when you hang it. Mine's got a few bends in it because I've had to travel with it a few times teaching classes, but otherwise it would be nice and flat. And that's what a pant sloper looks like.
Okay, Jenna, I have a couple questions. I'm gonna
Sure.
set this down and point it at you because they went faster than I could read. What size rotary cutter do you recommend to cut out patterns?
Well, I prefer this. I think this is a 60, and the smaller one is 45. Now, I prefer the larger one. And no, you don't have to go smaller when you're doing a curve or anything like that. I cut out everything with this one as long as it's sharp. This is the one I recommend for people who are likely to cut themselves. Who's likely to cut themselves? Beginners, children, people who are attention deficit. So this one works great. It's a 45, but it has this wonderful feature where when you pick it up and grasp the handle, the blade is exposed. When you take your hand off the handle, the blade is guarded. And that is really important especially for beginners, because these things are like razor blades. And I can't tell you how many people, we used to do our expo, inevitably, at least one or two a weekend, we had to take to the hospital emergency to get a stitch or two, because they get excited, they're not paying attention, next thing you know, they get a little nick or a cut in their finger. So, I prefer the big one, but I use this one as well. It doesn't really matter. I wouldn't want one any smaller.
Okay, so yeah, some people are saying, they've been looking for those heavy washers and they can't find them. And Janice suggested something that I was gonna say: garage sales and estate sales are great for stuff like that, because those guys that have their barns and garages are just full of all their. We have our sewing hoarder stash, and they have their parts and tools and all that stuff hoarder stash.
Yeah, I wouldn't know where to buy them. I just went, like I said, I just took them out of my husband's garage.
Yeah, and Josie said, I would love to have one of those parts cabinets, but they're so expensive. But Josie, I don't know if you use Marketplace on Facebook, but check that out, because I have seen them on there before. My friend is an expert in refurbishing garbage, and she loves Marketplace. She finds the library catalogs and the little drawer cabinets and stuff like that all the time on there. So just keep your eye out on there. And again, like we said, estate sales and garage sales.
Well, I have some other ideas for storage too that I think you're gonna like. This is another alternative for cutting, and I think this is fabulous. We got my mom one, and she used it for her lifetime because her sewing room obviously wasn't as big as mine. But what's really nice about this cabinet, it's got a pretty good size footprint. So I'm going to say, what does this say here? 36. So it's a little more than 36 long on the top. But it has leaves on both ends. So once you pull those leaves up, you've probably got 2 yards that you have to cut on. And you can put a cutting mat. This one came with a cutting mat that covered without the leaves. The name of the company that I got this from is So Bright, and I hope they're still in business, because these are fabulous. So let me just show you what's really cool about this. Besides the leaves, it's portable. So you can roll it around. This is really heavy, and yet I can still maneuver it around. The casters are excellent. And then you have on this side, you have these long trays. And let's just take a look here. This would be my scissor stash.
Just a couple.
Just a couple, and I don't use any of these. But I used to use these a lot. These are what they use in the garment industry for stack cutting. If you were going to cut 10 or 12 layers, you could use these. They're kind of hard on the hands and wrists because they are heavy. But nice. They're just nice, good quality shears. But anyways, lots of rotary cutters and scissors. all kinds of stuff here, and then like I've got my button stash here. So for my buttons, especially my hand dyed, you guys know that I bought the Islander kits. This is I bought this probably at either Hobby Lobby or Joann's, and it's for beads.
You set that right here and maybe not much better, but they get. Oh, it's got all the little compartments already in there.
Yeah, and they're not expensive, and they've got everything organized. Otherwise, it'd just be a big box, so I'd have to dig through it every time. All right, so let's take a look at the other side, because again, we've got leaves on both ends, and then the other side I use a lot.
Rolling, rolling, rolling.
So here, and these all those trays and all these little cabinets came with it. So these little, not cabinets, but little containers, thank you. And so we labeled them, so need a 7-inch zipper, I know right where to go. If I can get it out, it's a little full. But lots of little notions can be there, and anybody who's ever watched Tuesdays at 2 for any length of time knows all about my favorite project containers. So this will hold about 4 of them here. This is my cutter. This will cut stacks of 12 to 24 layers of fabric. So when and it's a rotary cutter, but it's electric, self-sharpening. So when we do our kits for our online classes like No Pins, No Basting or a bound buttonhole class, this is what we use to stack cut all that. These are not cost effective unless you want to do a lot of it. Like if you do a lot of charity projects or group projects, this could save you a lot of time. Okay.
Hey Janet, can you talk about, somebody had asked early on about the little dress form.
This one?
Yes.
Okay. So this is what's called a half scale dress form. And you'll see dress forms, I got that styrofoam one up there, and it's just decorative. But when you buy a half scale dress form, it is exactly half. So this is the size 8. If I made a garment and I fitted it on here and I took it apart, all I'd have to do is increase all of the dimensions by 2 and I would have a perfect size 8. Hopefully that makes sense, but that's a lot of times makes it a lot easier to design. You need far less fabric, far less muslin, and if you're designing for a specific size, that can be helpful. Sometimes I use this for demonstrations. You see I put my little rounded back on here when we were doing a little demo. So you could pad them up or change the configuration a little bit. But it's a great way to test an idea or to develop a design. So that's what these little half-scale dress forms are. The one I have over here, let me get this guy. This dress form, it's seen better days, but it was gifted to me by some of the contestants in a contest I used to run at American Sewing Expo called Passion for Fashion. And each year there was 12 contestants and always one winner. And each year the winner would sign the dress form. And one of our earliest winners, some of you are familiar with her, Angela Wolf. She has the Wolf Pack, and she does online Facebook and works closely with Brother Sewing Machine Company. So there's Angie's right here. And there's other people on here that you may be familiar with and some that you're not. But, so that's what this dress form's all about. It is a half scale, and I could use it, but I never will because it's a memory piece.
Okay. Brenda said it seems so much smaller than half.
I know. I thought that the first time I touched one too, and I thought, oh no, that can't possibly be. But it's true. It's very true.
Okay, so Josie's asking where she could purchase one.
Good luck. You know what?
Good luck. Oh, that's very helpful.
Well, I bought mine from PGM, and I don't know that they exist anymore. And then I bought some from Joe, but he had to have them special made. I don't know that he carries
So
them.
try that.
P.
I was gonna say Joe's is European dress forms
PGM,
or PGM.
and that was a lot of the dress form companies have gone out of business. Joe's is French European.
Josie says I'm part of the pack.
Oh, good.
Angie's little pack.
So-
Ian, Connie.
Oh,
Do
good.
you guys have a howl? I don't know what, but you should. I love
Well,
it.
it's kind of fun because Angie was a custom clothing designer and maker for many years, and when she entered our contest, she caught the eye of Brother Sewing Machine Company and was invited to do some TV work for them, and the rest is history. She's a very, very, probably one of the most popular sewers on the internet right now, and a lovely, lovely person on it to boot.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, I'm sure. I mean, her skill set is amazing, but her personality just takes
takes
the
it to
next.
another level. Yeah.
And then Jillian was wondering about the electric rotary cutter where you could get one of those.
Try Wawak. Try Wawak. Let me see if there's a label on here. I think I bought mine at
Oops.
Southern something that doesn't exist anymore. I don't have any label on here. Try Wawak. If you don't see it at Wawak, let me know. But I think you could also do a Google. And they have a lot of different types. I like this one because it sits flat. It has some kind of wheels on the bottom so it glides very smoothly. There are some that look more like scissors and you hold them up like this. That type is more on the hobby end of things because it's scissors and it's buzzing, where this is a rotary cutter and it just slices. So I would prefer this type. And Wawak is W-A-W-A-K, I believe. It's out of Wawak, New Jersey. They have all kinds of sewing and tailoring supplies, professional supplies.
All right, Deb says they have it. Somebody also has already reported back that So Bright's still in business, so you're good to go on that. And we can be very grateful that we don't run the same time as Angie because her wolf pack is all here. So welcome.
Yeah. Okay, great. All right. So next up, we'll go over to the ironing station.
Sure.
All right. Okay, so this is my pressing station, and I always get questions about the ironing board. So the first thing I want to tell you is this is not an ironing board. This is called a big board, and it's actually made of wood, and it has a little lip around it, and it just sits
Let me get them. I'll get under there.
sits on top of your ironing board. So if you didn't want to use it all the time, it would be removable. And I used to have a cover for it, and then I made some covers for it. But as of late, I just take a piece of muslin and I use it, lay it on there. It clings to the padding, and I lay it on there. And when it gets really nasty looking, I throw it away and get a new piece. And that, instead of all the trouble of trying to put elastic in it and make it look all pretty and nice, I gave that up a long time ago. Okay, so my favorite iron is the gravity feed iron. And I never did find a left-handed iron. Somebody asked me the other day if they came in left-handed. And I would think they would, but I didn't find one when I tried to look. What's nice about a gravity feed iron is all the water is up here. There's a charcoal filter in the bottom, so all the water gets filtered, but it never leaves that container until you push the button, and it shoots it through the hose and out the iron. So the iron never houses any water, and that's what causes your irons, for the most part, to go bad and start spitting and doing all the things they do, and they wear out after a year or two. It's because there's water in there, and the calcification and the minerals that are in the water are sitting in that iron, and they sit there sometimes for weeks, and then they corrode the iron. The other thing I want to tell you about an iron is make sure if you're purchasing a good quality iron for sewing, that it's heavy. This is very heavy. Should be at least a couple of pounds. And that the steam holes are only in the tip. Because when you're pressing something and you shoot that steam on it, you want to dry it back out. Well, you can't dry it back out if the entire iron is covered with steam holes. And I see them on the shelves, $100 irons just covered with steam holes. Well, I don't want that because I don't want a wet garment when I get done pressing it. I want it dry. So steam should only be coming out of here, and that way as you press, the back 2/3 of your iron is drying out that steam that you put in.
Okay, 2 questions, Janet. What is the surface area of that big board?
I think we measured it last time. Let me see, here's a tape measure. So, it is 60 inches long and 22.5 inches wide.
And then Sharon asked, do you have to climb a stool to add water for the iron? Well, Sharon, I would first like to add Janet has to climb a stool to reach most everything.
Yes, you do, but I do not fill that. I used to have the steam generator, and I've had the other types of iron, and you're constantly filling it with water. I only have to do that every 2 or 3 months, and we do a lot of sewing in here. It's amazing how much less water we're using the gravity feed iron as opposed to a steam generator or other types of steam irons. So yes, I have a little library stool. I pop up there and put the water in, but again, it's only every probably 3 months at the earliest that we have to put water in. Okay, so then, I've got this pegboard here, and I keep all my ironing goodies here. So my silk organza pressing cloths. This is Teflon, so when you're pressing sticky stuff, you want to have a Teflon. This is wonderful. It's a Home Deck product, but it's for pressing hems up. So it works pretty much like this, and you decide, okay, I want a 2-inch hem. You line that up on the 2-inch mark, and then you press it. So this is a type of product, I don't know exactly what it is, but it takes the heat just fine.
Oh, I'm sorry, Janet. What is the brand of that iron?
I don't know if I know. Let me see. Pacific Gravity Iron. Pacific. Like the ocean. Mine, I wish I could tell you. It's got a model number on here, but.
And you use distilled water?
I use spring water. They will tell you in all the directions what to use, but you really want to have that carbon in there. That carbon really must do a great job because it works so well. Okay, so, and I think, we've discovered the point pressers for pressing collars and things like that. And, of course, my seam sticks and the clapper I've got up here. And my ham I don't use as often, so it's up much higher.
They're random heads.
Well, that's a hat. Those are hat forms. So whenever I'm making a hat, which isn't all that often, but I did make some last summer. Yep, we made some bucket hats. We used to make, when Jessica and I did the Renaissance Festival and sold our line of capes and coats, we would take the leftover wool and make berets. We sold berets like crazy, and we made it all out of fabric that was going to get thrown away. So it was a pretty good deal for us. Okay, so that's our ironing station. I've got a couple of containers down here of white and black interfacing, so it's right close to the iron where I need it. Okay, so then ironing, speaking of pressing, this is my press. I have one that's made by Reliable. It's what they call a clamshell. And for me, I wanted the longest footprint I could get. A lot of them are only about this big, so probably just a little more than half of this. I specifically did this because I wanted to be able to get the full length of a placket, the front of a shirt, or as long as I possibly could get on here. But what's nice about having a press is it is done, you can set the temperature. The temperature is very important when it comes to interfacing, especially professional grade interfacings. You know, you get your interfacings at Joann's, heaven forbid, and it just says, you know, use heat and steam, and that's pretty much what it tells you to do. Okay, interfacing, I take all my cues from the industry, as you know, and when you go into the garment factories, they have this giant metal box. It's probably 6 feet long. And the pieces to be interfaced, a tray comes out, you put those pieces with interfacing on them in the tray. They set the machine at the temperature, the amount of steam, and the pressure that is to be applied. And then they come out the other end perfect. So every industry interfacing has a specific temperature and pressure that is supposed to be applied. So when you have a press, you can get to that exact 400 degrees or 380 or 420, where when you're using an iron, you have no idea what temperature it is. So it's good if you're doing a lot of interfacing. I use this not as often as I used to. When I'm doing a lot, I would rather use this because I can put a lot of pieces on here and put the thing down, and it has a timer and it just beeps and I know I'm done. So it takes up a bit of space and it may not be for everyone, but that's what a press is all about. Okay, so where do you want to go? Right this way?
Sure, wherever you want.
Okay, so this is my station where we do cover hem. So I've got this machine set up and we almost never use it for anything else but the cover hem. It's in a nice koala cabinet that has these wonderful shelves that it'll roll all the way over to the front of this and just become a little cube if you want it to. And it has these nice shelves. So I never put my white thread up here in my colors. I keep a tub full of white and I keep a tub full of black because I use it so much and I have so much of it. It's easier just to reach down here and grab a spool of black or white thread. And this is just a spare cabinet with some more drawers of notions and probably 10 times more things than I really need to have. We keep all of our threads on the wall other than those tubs. And so I've got serger thread on both of these walls. I've got a serger over there and a serger over here. Now this is my serger workhorse that does all my 3 and 4 thread serging. So I don't have to stop and set this one up for 3 or 4 thread serging or 2 thread even when we're doing a rolled hem. So this is my little workhorse. This is my cover hem. And again, all the threads. And then this is my vintage sewing machine that we have our Greist buttonholer set up on. So I never have to go looking for it. I don't have to get the screwdrivers out and change everything. I know me, and if I have to keep changing pieces, parts, I'm liable to avoid it.
You
So-
can see her part of her buttonhole holder collection back there.
Oh, yep, and all the things that we need, the X-Acto knife and the freight checks. And again, another little ruler. We always keep our tiny little tailor point scissors at every station as well. So, and this is just a table out of my office that I didn't need in the office anymore, so I brought it out here. And the cool thing was, when you get a Rhino mat, they come in certain sizes. So you tell them what size you want it cut to. You get the one that comes the closest to the size you need, and then you say, well, here's the dimensions I want. They will cut it for you. And a tip the woman I talked to on the phone gave me was, she says, tell them you want the scrap. I go, okay. So this piece that almost completely covers this table was the scrap left over when they cut the mat that's on my big table. So I was able to use that easily, and if I had to quickly cut something with a X-Acto knife or a rotary cutter, I'm all set. I don't have to do a thing. So that was kind of a fun little tip that she gave me that I wouldn't have known about.
They are concerned about if your thread gets dusty.
What's dust? You know, I've never had a problem, but I will tell you I don't dust. I don't have a feather duster in here and dust everything. Maybe there's just enough activity. But if it gets dusty, I guess I don't care.
Okay.
All right, so now the main sewing section.
Sorry, I'm moving. It's a little,
Yeah, I know, she's gotta move a little.
it's a little shaky.
So, well, before you come any further, this cabinet has what I absolutely insist on, is this leaf that comes up, so that if I'm making a coat or a full-length cape, I have all this surface. Because you know how important that is to have your garment laying flat while you're sewing. But what I found out when I went to order this is I could get shelves for underneath. And I knew I was gonna leave this up all the time, so I got shelves. I store my elastic and my embroidery threads that I never use, and a few other things on those shelves.
Is this a koala as well?
This is a koala. This is kind of one of their Mac daddies, because it's got everything. Like this right here swings around too, and so does this, so the whole thing can collapse and be like a cube in the corner. So if you need it, if your sewing room has to be an all-purpose room, like maybe it's the guest room or something else, then you could get this all folded up and out of the way. But anyway, these things have shelves on them, as you can see, these little leaves that pull out. So I like to have my basic sewing supplies that I know I'm always looking for when I'm sitting at the sewing machine right here. And this is one of my favorites. This I got at an office supply store, but I thought, what a great idea.
That was not a great idea.
That wasn't. Is that you only have so much space, but when it's around and it's on a little Lazy Susan, you have got your optimal amount of storage with the least amount of space. So all my favorite little tools, my zipper feet, my screwdrivers, my point turner, my magnet, in case I do drop a pin, I can pick it up off the floor with my little magnet. Just all that kind of stuff. And of course up here is leftover things that didn't get put away, threads. And several colors of chalkeners, you always gotta have your chalkeners. This is my favorite way to store bobbins, and this is why. They don't get tangled up. They usually have a bunch of threads hanging from them, but they don't get tangled. They're easy to find the color you want.
And if you have different machines, you can have a different one or do half one bobbin,
Yep.
half the other if it
Yep, I have
requires
the other
that.
machine over here with the plastic bobbins. And so, yep, you can designate them. What are those called? They've got a name.
Bobbin saver.
Yeah, there's another name.
Oh.
You know, Schmetz, what's her face? I can't think of it right now. Lighting. Lighting is so important at your sewing machine. We love this one. This is, oh shoot. Angie knows.
Wolfpack? Wolfpack?
I forget the name. She was working with them for a short amount of time. Anyways, it's nice. It's got this LED bar and it can move around to where you need it. So I really like this. This is one of my favorites. I've had the other kind, the OttLite, but they were so big and they took up such a lot of space, where this one is nice and narrow and very flexible.
We're getting suggestions of daylight or slim light.
Daylight.
Daylight.
Daylight. Daylight.
Liz, you win.
Wanna go home.
Oh, Josie wins.
Josie wins.
Josie and Liz win. Thank you, Wolfpack.
So another thing is this is a hydraulic lift. So if you had it in a room where you had to put it away occasionally, it's got a power lift that'll take it up and down.
Oh, you fancy.
And over here I've got these really cool drawers, and these are the drawers that have that close themselves kind of thing. And here's how I keep my sewing machine needles. And again, this is very similar to what I keep the buttons in. It's kind of the same thing. I've got two of these here. The top one, I just took the cover right off of it so I can just reach in to the drawer to pull out what I need. And then when they came out with chromes, I have all my chrome needles down in this container. So,
Brenda asked, is that a different machine than the one you needed to get serviced?
they both had to be serviced. One's a Jane and one's a Brother Novell or whatever they're calling it today. The Jane's got a new name too. But here's the truth about these machines. They're all made in the same.
Did they change it to the Janet finally?
No, I tried to get them to. They should have. That would have only been fair. But they did not. Anyway, these are made in the same factory. It's just a different housing. This one says Jane and they put the Baby Lock logo on it. The Brother one's got the Brother logo. And I don't know, but I'm going to guess that the Juki is the same. They're all made in the same country, probably in the same factory. They are light industrial machines. So they take industrial feet. And they only straight stitch. And they're all metal. All you have to do is oil it once in a while. And you probably never have to have it serviced. Except for the fact that I did have to have both of these serviced. And the reason is that automatic thread cutter. And I've seen online many people having this problem. And when it happened with one of the machines, okay, I just lucky enough to have two. I put the one back in the corner and I got the other one out, and pretty soon it happened with the other one. So I take it into the dealer and I say, look, when I cut the thread, it pops right out of the needle. Well, we'll see what we can do. And they did something and they gave it to me. And I sewed about 10 minutes and it started happening again. And I called the dealer back, and we had a 20-year relationship. We're good friends, but he and I got into an argument eventually because I said, he goes, Janet, I tried that. I tried it several times. I tried it with different threads. I tried it with different needles. I go, I don't know what to tell you, dude, but it's happening. And I know how to sew, and you know I know how to sew. This isn't me. There's something wrong with this machine. Well, after a little bit of back and forth, he took the machine, and when he had time, he took it apart, and he did find out what the fatal flaw was. and he fixed both of my machines, and it's never happened again. So, someone wrote me the other day and said, how did you get that fixed? Because mine's doing it, and I don't know what to do. Well, I well imagine you're going to have the same problem I did. The dealer's going to go in there, and he's going to make some minor adjustment, and it's going to all go bad again in a few weeks. So I sent that person my dealer's name. So any brother dealer who wanted, they could call him up and ask him, what did you do to fix that? There are other hacks that people are doing, and one is using the silicone ear plugs and taking a piece and sticking it on one of these thread guides. And it helps to keep the thread from sliding through so fast, apparently. I didn't try that because I was lucky enough to convince my dealer to go the extra mile and find out what the heck was really wrong with the machine. Anyway, so they were both serviced, but they both work, and that's the only service I've ever had on them. And my brother has got to be 20 years old.
This keeps going out of focus.
Okay. So, again, they're mechanical machines, and I know I've said this before, but I think it's one of the best little nuggets you can know about buying one of these machines. All the feet that come with this machine are so inexpensive. Industrial feet are made high quality, and they cost a fraction of what home sewing machine feet cost. Sometimes a home sewing machine foot can cost $50, $75, $100. You can't find a foot that costs that much for an industrial machine. Maybe $12, $15. So once you get a machine like this, it's not a big investment to add the parts like the compensating foot or the even feed foot. There's so many different feet that you can purchase for this machine. You could probably buy 20 feet for this machine for what it costs you for 2 for a home machine. And I do have a home machine, but I almost never use it. It's not even out because I never use it, because this sews faster and does a better stitch than any home machine, because it doesn't do a zigzag. It's got a nice strong thrust and a nice even straight stitch. And I think that's my tour, other than this is my design board up here. And what this is a piece of insulation board that I bought at Home Depot. And then I just covered it with a piece of fabric. My husband set it up here on these clamps that I could take off. So if I wanted to take it off and turn it the other way and pin things to it to do some designing or to do some photography, I can do that. But in the meantime, it's up out of my way. And I love the same concept for a temporary cutting table. If you live in an apartment, you just don't have enough room, you could take a piece of the insulation, cover it in a contact paper, and then set it on top of any other table temporarily to get a nice big surface to cut on. And then this could be easily stored. You can pick this up with one hand. Put it under the bed, put it in a closet, put it out in the garage, whatever. So I found that was a great solution for me many years ago when I didn't have room. And I think that's it for my tour, unless there's any other questions.
Why don't we move back over here?
Okay.
And then I'll try to scroll through. If I've missed your question, that's very close on my face. If I missed your question, feel free to shout it out again. It was not intentional. Let's see. Just so you can see there.
Oh, we didn't do the storage under the table.
Okay, I can do that. Okay, I don't think I have any questions that I missed. But if you have one, shout it out. And then she wants to show you.
I think think this is very clever, and I did not come up with this idea. My mentor did, the person who I bought this table from. These are cardboard tubes for concrete work. I think they cost maybe $5 or $6 a piece. And I put them in here to store my fabric. And it really helps because you don't want it all just stacked on top of each other. And so you can do all kinds of storage under a table like this. But if you're going to have a big cutting table, consider taking advantage of underneath for some of your storage.
Okay, what? Oops, hold on. Was wondering, oh, Donna Hayes, hi Donna. Was wondering the brand of her old machine that she does buttonholes on.
I'm trying to think. What is it?
Green.
Kenmore, I think. Let me look. I think it's a Kenmore. Yeah, it's a Sears Kenmore.
Sears Kenmore. Oh, Brenda says she lives up to Brenda the Spenda and bought a bunch of flannel, so we'll be pulling it out of those tubes soon. There's the mitts in the back. Those are in the back. All right, lots of thanks.
Okay.
No more questions?
Yeah. Well, it's just a tour, but hopefully it gave some people some ideas. If you're, I know the person who asked was trying to get a sewing room put together, and she wanted to give her husband some ideas of what she needed. I love the pegboard because, like you saw at my ironing station, you can put shelves up as well as pegs. So you have lots of options, lots more options for storage that way. So that's what I found was very cool about the pegboard.
Yeah, always work on using that vertical space,
Yeah.
whether it be under a table or whatever. Like Janet has those tubes under there. If you didn't have the tubes, you're stacking all that fabric, and then you can't get to the ones on the bottom without taking all the other ones out. So it's all similar thing. Work on using that vertical space.
Yes, I agree.
What's the brand of the industrial machine?
I don't have an industrial machine.
Yeah.
The light industrial?
Right, the
The light industrials are available at your local dealers. So the one on my table now is a Baby Lock, but my original one was the Brother. They're the exact same machine. So I'm going to tell you the issue with them is availability. And that isn't that they're not readily available, it's that a lot of sewing machine dealers don't carry them. They will maybe order it for you. And the reason is that it doesn't make them as much money as the big $5,000 to $10,000 embroidery machines. So that's the machines they really want to sell. So I did post, I think it's Sewing Machines Online. Brenda's in the office. I can post it again, but I posted it in the comments on one of the recent videos because people were asking, and I think they were selling it for like under $750 with free shipping, and you don't need lessons because it's a straight stitch machine. You just, you don't really need, normally I would say you need to buy it from the dealer, but this particular machine, when I bought it 20 years ago, it was $1,500. Now think about inflation and everything else, but 20 years ago. And that was the MSRP on it anyway. And so now to be able to buy one brand new in the box for $750, that's a steal. So I'm pretty sure it's Sewing Machines Online is the name of the website. But if you have any trouble, let me know.
Josie, just to clarify, we were talking about the big tubes that Janet keeps the fabric in. The fabric is on those tubes, the littler tubes, but
Oh.
that's how it comes to us since we buy so much. She was saying her local Joann's won't sell the tubes because they reuse them, but we're
Right.
specifically talking about she has those big tubes.
Yeah, they're probably 2 feet across, and they're for masonry work. So, like if they're creating a concrete pillar or they're putting something they want stuck in concrete. So, and they're meant to be disposable for that industry, but they're really inexpensive. Somewhere between $5 and $7 a piece.
Yeah, so if you go back in the video, you'll see like she has a tube with all kinds of shirting, and a tube with knits, and a tube with the ponte and stuff like that. So that keeps it organized and able to come in and out without taking all the other rolls off to get out to the ones on the bottom. Oh, and Pam said I keep wrapping paper tubes for my fabric. So
Oh,
there's a
very good.
suggestion.
Yeah. I wish somebody needed them. I mean, we were throwing them out. Remember how many we had saved at one time over by your
Yes.
desk? So you couldn't
We were
get to your desk?
saving them for a project. I was working with the school for the theater group, and we were saving them for scenery and all that sort of stuff. And then COVID. So then it was like, what do we do? She's tried sending them home with my kids. Stop.
The kids, they think they're so cool. I go, you can take it home. You can take two. I love doing stuff like that. But anyway, yeah, we throw out several a week, and if somebody wanted them, I'd be happy to give them to them.
Okay, so that is what we have. I'm glad you all enjoyed it. If you have any further questions, email islandersewing@comcast.net.
Give our best to Angie.
Yeah.
All you people at the
Wolfpack.
Wolfpack, tell her we said hi.
All right, and we will see you next week. And don't forget to post a picture of your easy shirt. If you're not going to post, at least go check out what everybody else says.
That's right.
All right, and we will see you next week.
Have a great week, everybody.